All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to our September 13th workshop. All right, we got, once again, we always have a full agenda, it seems like anymore. And first up, I wanted to mention, I mentioned to the employees of the town at a couple of meetings ago that after we had the September 6th meeting, which I thought was very positive for our employees to move forward with, for us to do some changes. I directed our council to take a look at the language, the A and B language, but Lou, you've directed Wafer Taylor to take a look at that, and you're going to have it done Friday.
Friday, I'll have it done Friday. I have a conference call with Paul Madden and a fellow named Steve Mears, is a labor specialist with Wafer Taylor.
Perfect.
And then I'll be able to get back to the board with the process.
Very good. So I'm going to take the heat for stretching you out another week or so, but we want to do this right. There's still some discussion going back and forth. I think everyone up here is in favor of giving the open arms. The challenge that we have as the elected body is that it's the charter amendment. This is it may come back that it's a very minor change, because we've made minor changes of language in the charter without the residents of the town voting on them. But if it's, I know that when the police went through this collective bargaining, it was a charter change, a charter amendment, and it was voted on by the people of the town of Elkton. So that's the decision that we have to make up here. Thank you guys for your patience. All right, first up we got Wiener Benefits Group, overview of employee investment programs. Thank you guys for coming in, because this is very important for us to understand a little bit better also.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, executive team. We'll just get the PowerPoint up here, and we have a nice little recap of what we've been doing over the past several months with the retirement plan for your participants here in the town. So we're excited to share some good information for you. Thank you very much. My name is Louis Memolo. I'm one of the partners at Wiener Benefits Group, and this is Tom Gillibo. He's our associate advisor working on our employer-sponsored retirement plans. We have a few slides just to recap a little bit. First of all, my partner Mike Reckner and I, and our senior partner Deborah Shears, our mission for you guys, for every employer that we work with, is to help our clients achieve a sense of security and peace of mind for both themselves and their employees. We worked with innovative solutions, trying to find the latest, greatest items where we promise to be knowledgeable, competent, thorough, and forward-thinking in how we work with you as the town, but also with your participants, so that we always know that we're bringing the appropriate tools to the table for your folks. We've been around since 1938. We have a lot of multi-generational clients that we work with. We're in our third generation at Wiener, and we're one of the largest and oldest independently owned benefit firms in the area.
And you don't look that old.
I don't, do I? Good clean living, I guess.
Yeah.
Our team, Stephanie and Tom and I, were all qualified plan fiduciaries, so that means we have the tools and expertise to consistently work with your plan participants. Not sure what happened. Where's the low battery?
We've been having technical difficulties today.
We have.
Something in the air.
Are you correct? Do you want me to ask him to correct?
Did your computer go completely out?
I had to bypass the power strip, so. it should be
Did
good
we
now.
accidentally step on something over here, or?
No, for whatever reason, the power strip didn't supply it the battery power that it needed, so I had to just.
Are you saying?
Let's go with power strips.
And then there's the bugger here, we got.
It's the old updates coming through on your computer now. Oh, how crazy is this? Well, listen, can you verbally
Sure.
talk about it?
Absolutely.
All right, you can verbally talk about it, and then when it kicks back on, we'll have it ready.
Well, sounds good. I was introducing our team. Stephanie, Tom, and I are qualified plan fiduciary consultants and advisors. That qualifies us to be fiduciaries on your behalf and on behalf of the participants, in the sense that we're always looking out for what's best for the participant and how we work with them. We're also non-qualified plan advisors. Tom is a chartered financial consultant, and Tom and I are investment advisor representatives with our Series 7, 66, and 63. So you have a good qualified team here to help your folks. And when we were here originally, we talked about why it's important to have an advisor, because the town has not had the benefit of an advisor on the ground level with the employees in the bringing the same things that we were able to bring. So we create a holistic approach to overall financial well-being. So we're looking at hire to retire, what brings a sense of peace and security. You guys have the core with the health benefits and so on, but it goes all the way through pre and post retirement. So our idea is to come to the table and help bring that perspective to the your participants and address the.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Good job, Kevin.
Thank you. So one central contact for both of the retirement plans, fiduciary guidance and analysis. We monitor, we select, we meet with the committee, we meet with the employees. We do a routine fund lineup analysis, and we assess the fiduciary performance, keeping an eye on costs and returns, and then, of course, education and ongoing administrative service and guidance. So that's what we said last year when we came in, and this is what happened. So we utilized resources with the employees. So we implemented our WellSense financial wellness program that provided a scheduling process for one-on-ones, but also assessments to help gather data to better serve the participants. The fees, we've levelized the fees and lowered overall the plan costs. We've increased the overall fund performance by seeking out better scoring, lower cost, higher performing historically funds, and then created a simplified and focused lineup. You guys had a ton of options here, and I'll show you that in a second, but HR and participants have interacted with Weiner team members directly, so we've inserted ourselves to help relieve some of the ongoing administrative stress of running the plan. And we have 74 individual meetings over the past year with participants in both the 457 and 401. 74 of your folks we sat down with. Tom, Stephanie, and I think we did it over 3 days, and Tom's been coming back on a regular basis since then. And then we had 5 group education meetings. So a lot of education going on, a lot of one-on-one interaction, a lot of individual analysis and consultation. Tom and I being investment advisor representatives, we can talk to folks at that level, whereas previously the nationwide folks they were only allowed to educate, they weren't allowed to advise. So what happened in that process? Well, we score the investments on a qualitative and quantitative level, score with 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, obviously, and we look at more than a dozen different factors that include, I call it the geek zone, up, down, alpha, beta, R squared, all of that data, management tenure, all of that. So when we came in, the average score of the funds in the 401A were 7.11, the 457, 7.43. Currently, it's 8.40. And it's only 8.40 because we have a 5 and a 6. So when we came in, we replaced the lineup, consolidated it, and the average score was between 7 and 10. But this last quarter, 2 funds dropped to a 5 and a 6. But the investment policy that we worked with the team here to implement says that we look at it 2 to 3 quarters and then we make an adjustment. So we're watching it. And when we meet with the committee next month or in a couple weeks, we'll be able to look at those 2 funds. But that's a pretty big shift, especially when the original lineup, we had funds that scored 1s and 2s. And we had 2 totally separate lineups on the fund choices for the employees, very confusing. 2 different platforms, 2 different sign-ons. We got 1 sign-on and 1 lineup that's the same on both sides of the plan. So the current lineup is mostly 7 to 10. We have a 5 and a 6, that's why it's 5 there. So with a big improvement in the overall qualitative and quantitative technical monitoring of those investments. And in that process, internally, the management fees inside those mutual funds, on average, were 83 basis points on the 401 and 73 on the 457, and we brought the average down to 30. So that speaks directly to the return. So if someone was getting 10% return, they were maybe netting 9.2, but now we've saved them on average about 50 basis points, 0.5%.
Thanks.
I mean, that compounds over time, tax deferred. You know, the younger folks are going to see that in their retirement numbers, right? So that's good. Plan fees. The 401 nationwide charged 20 basis points, 457, 68 basis points. We lowered that by consolidating the platform and updating the platform, and then even with us involved, because our expense as an advisor was new to the plan, we are at a total of 52 basis points. So overall, in particular, the 457 folks had a decrease in their fees. But investment option consolidation, this is what I was pointing, we just used the large cap growth as an example. There were 11 actively managed large cap growth funds on the 401 and 5 on the 457. That's kind of confusing, I think. So we consolidated the lineup. We have 1 large cap actively managed growth fund and 1 indexed large cap fund, blended fund. In that category, makes it very simple, and it's the same on the 401 and the 457. And these are, the funds in particular in that lineup are scoring 9s and 10s. And that was just that asset class, just as an example. And that happened pretty much across the board. We changed the qualified default investment, which was for the 457 and the 401, from the fixed account to a age-rated risk managed target date fund. So it drops into
and I'll just add that anybody who previously had their money in the fixed account, they remain in the fixed account unless they proactively go and make a change. But for new employees who come on, if they make no investment selection of their own, they default now into a market-based target date fund according to their age rather than defaulting into the fixed account. Especially for younger folks who have a while until retirement, that's going to be a better situation. That's going to make them increase their likelihood of being retirement ready rather than, while there's no risk in a fixed account, you're flipping off a rate of interest that is not going to keep up with inflation. So didn't change the people who were already in there, new employees, now they'll default into a target date fund.
Did you have anything else to add on the other points on the slide?
I mean, just the range of scores. You don't get to a 1 and to a 2 unless those funds have remained in the plan for a long time. So that just shows there was no oversight and there was no monitoring of the funds previously. So, you know, even if we have a fund that drops below, sometimes it's not best to make an immediate change. We usually let it ride for 2 to 3 quarters before implementing a change, which is what we do with those 2 funds that are lack of oversight, and also that's how you end up with 11 different investment options in one asset class. Again, that just makes things confusing for people, and it's just unnecessary.
Okay. Any information or any questions so far?
Oh, good.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the employee themselves, I guess the biggest difference too, and I forgot to see your presentation, but before you helped us, the town, the employee would have to go to 2 different websites, is that correct?
That's correct.
One platform, so they can see their investments on the 401A, and if they participate in the 457, they'll be able to log in one place and see both at the same time.
Well, there's a splash screen, and they put one login, and they choose either the 401 or the 457. So when they select one, it'll have the same list of investment options as when they select the other.
Oh, I
So
see.
they don't see it together on one screen, like,
Okay.
these are my assets and my allocations in my 457, and right next to it are my assets and allocations in my 401. You have to click one and then the other.
What about the balances though? Can they see?
You can see the balances, right?
You can see the balances on that home screen, and then there's also the tool that you can use to calculate your retirement readiness, which some of you have probably seen if you're involved, and that aggregates the two together, so you see all that in one place, along with any other accounts that you might have outside.
So it segregates it, but it gives you another view where it's together.
Yeah, yeah.
Which they didn't have that capability.
Right, right.
That's correct.
Can I ask a question
Thank you.
regarding the default investment that previously was a fixed account for new employees, now it's a target date fund? What risk is there in the target date fund?
Well, I was gonna, thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to re-explain what a target date fund is. A target date fund has a changing allocation mix of equities, stocks, or fixed income. So it theoretically assumes that the younger we are, we take on more risk and there's a higher equity level. But there's a glide path that as we get closer to that target date, so it might default, 2035 if I'm gonna be 65 in 2035. So the glide path to 2035 in this example takes you from more equities, less fixed income, to more fixed income, less equity. So it automatically adjusts to a more conservative profile as you get closer to the target date. So
Reducing the risk.
reducing the risk, exactly. But also the target date in and of itself, because it is a mixture of equities and fixed income, it's a risk reduction anyway, as opposed to being all in equities. Now, coming from compared to fixed income, there is more risk because now you've introduced equities, but it's a balance, and it's an appropriate balance for the age, because the target date is designed for that. And we have the 3 risk levels. So beyond that, they default into a moderate level. They have a choice of conservative or aggressive. So you can come in at the target date as a moderate, say it's 50-50 equities and fixed income, but you can say, a younger person might say, well, I want to be more aggressive than that, so they can switch to the aggressive version of that target date. Still a glide path, but it's more equities early on and more equities at the target date because they've selected a more aggressive version of that allocation fund.
So, but since there's equities in target date fund, if someone were to leave here prior to their 5 years to be invested, the town could lose money when they would get that money back. 80% that the town has invested, but if someone leaves prior to their 5 years and they're investing, the town wouldn't get all their money back.
Well,
They could possibly lose money.
I guess based on the portion of that's equities in that target date and whoever's in the target date.
But that was not a risk before when it was a fixed account.
Correct, but it wasn't as much, but in the sense that if a person, the risk is on the ERISA side of things, and I know ERISA doesn't apply here, the risk is that if an employee is defaulted into a low returning fixed account and they find out later that, oh, I could have gotten X% in equities, but they put me here, that could potentially be a liability. That's why most plans default to a target date style or allocation style versus a fixed account. It's the reverse, someone coming back later and saying, I didn't get enough return and this was available to me, but you didn't know, right? So that's what we were trying to fix in that whole process. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody?
It does, but
The town's a
Steve,
little bit at risk.
yeah, Steve raised a good question that it gets me to want to ask a question. So if a person's here 4 years and they're not vested into the plan, those dollars, does it come back to the town?
Right.
At
Well,
some
it
point.
comes back, we offset it by the future subsidy contribution. Because it would not be the employees, they weren't vested, they would not have been invested in it. Vested, they not invested in it. They were not vested in prior to 5 years, so when the town, in effect, got the money back that had been contributing, but it never would have been at a loss, but potentially could be at a loss.
There's a period of time where if an employee is here for like 2 years, not vested, they leave, they could come back to the town. If they do so within that 5-year period,
Yeah.
they would be able to, they would, that money would be there for them to come back to. Okay, after that 5-year period has elapsed, then if that money that they weren't vested in goes into a forfeiture account, and if that money lost value in the market, then the town would be getting back, less than they contributed or more.
It could go more too.
If they are, but what the guidance I think that we received is that when you're setting that up as an investment account for an individual, it should be an appropriate, even though there's a risk that they may leave the town, it should be an appropriate investment for that individual as a retiree, how they should be, invested in. For most people, being in a fixed account is an appropriate investment to meet the needs that they have as a retiree.
Tom, is there a separate, or Louis, is there a separate line item for forfeiture accounts for us right now? I mean, is there, for accounts?
Well, we would know what's forfeited by the people leaving prior to their vesting, their 5-year vesting period. And then we would just, that would be forfeited back to the town, and we would just use offset any subsequent 8%, bi-weekly contributions into the plan that there currently is. But the point is, they always have the opportunity after 5 years to direct their investment. And the town was never at a risk of losing anything for anyone who left prior to 5 years. But there is a potential risk now.
And the fiduciary rule tells us that we have to focus on the participant, not the plan sponsor. So that's the balance that comes in there, but we could change the account that the funds fall into a moderate allocation fund too, right?
Yeah, we could.
But I think, like Andy said, it could work the opposite way too.
Exactly. And then, for me as a new participant, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, even if I wanted to go to a more aggressive, because I'm a new hire, I'm not allowed like the full amount, I only can take a percentage, is that correct?
So for folks that have their money in the fixed account currently, there's only a certain percentage that they can withdraw from the fixed account at one time and move into a market-based investment. So there's really not a risk of a huge windfall of money coming out of the fixed account and into the market at one time. They can only do a percentage, 15%, I believe.
10 or 15%.
10-15% at one time. So it will be a slow, for people that like to do that, it'll be a slow transition for them. But for new employees, they'll default into that target date as opposed
Oh, I
to
see.
in the past defaulting into the fixed account.
That money would stay invested in the target date for that former employee,
Yeah.
unless they change it?
Well, it's still their account, so they could go in and they can go in and make those changes. It's their money until that period lapses where they're no longer eligible to return as a rehire.
That's right.
So I get the statements in the mail,
Yep.
and that creates.
So I guess just to clarify my thinking, is there an actual line item for the money that's forfeited, or who keeps track of that?
That's on the statements, the plan level statement that shows all of the assets in the plan and where that's just like, that is a line item, the balance in the forfeiture account, and it grow or decrease based on, people who leave and people return, or.
And then we use that money to fund
To offset the funding.
for the next,
forward.
for the ones, okay, understand.
Yep.
Okay.
Does that answer questions, concerns?
Okay, so
just some additional numbers. The participant in the 457, current value $2,457,000, change from last year, up 19%. Total participant count in the 457, up 42%. When we did our one-on-ones, we were surprised that some folks didn't even understand that there was something like this available to them, believe it or not. So there was a lot of new enrollees in the 457 as we met with them. Total new enrollments, up 480%. Total deferrals, up 72%, and over the last quarter, up over 100%. Andy tells us the payroll week or cycle shows twice as much going into the 457 than before from the participants.
So the 457 is what the employee puts in?
Yes.
Yes.
It doesn't include what we're putting in, that's a different plan.
And it's a
Right.
volunteer. They don't have to participate in the 457, Mayor, and Commissioners. They have an option to, but it's totally controlled by them about the amount.
Okay,
So since Weiner Benefits has been helping the town, the amount that's going into the 457 by the employees has doubled. That means that there's good engagement with the employees. They see value in what they're explaining to them, and they're investing more of their money that they worked hard for toward their retirement in the future. So that's a great data point.
now I guess when I was looking through this, okay, it's coming up, the 401, we'll talk about the 401, but I don't think you had the value of what's in the 401.
I think we might have the total value, but we weren't able to get all the historical data on
The
the
401 move, part of the benefit of moving to the unified platform, 401 came from a different kind of outdated platform at Nationwide, which limited us to the information that we could get. But also our involvement isn't as impactful in 457 in terms of, because everybody is automatically enrolled, it's just will fluctuate based on who's hired and who's terminated. And they all put the same amount in, so they have no discretion here at 457 where we can help to encourage greater participation. We can get that for you too, we have it upcoming.
And you're managing our 401 also.
Yes, yes. I think that what we found out is that we were able to help some of those folks that wanted to do so diversify, where they were 100% in the fixed account. They diversified into some other mutual funds that gave them a little broader potential rate of return. And also jumping to that, because there's a 25% limit. Several folks, a lot actually signed up for an automatic rollout of 25% into a set of mutual funds that they selected over a time period. So they got it. They understood that, well, this is too conservative for me. I want to have something a little more suitable for my risk level. And they automated the process, which was really good. So, one other point here, you guys, or Nationwide has these pro accounts, which are managed accounts at a fee. We saw a 10% reduction in that, and that's good because they were paying a fee for a service that we came in and provided them, and they would have been double paying. So they took our direction and advice and got out of the pro account and set up their own personal allocations instead of an automated process. But obviously still a lot of folks still in that. The participation in the 457, 64 in June of 22, 91 in June of 23. And then you can see here that the age groups, notice that the under 30,
Oh, yeah.
so we captured those young folks that are like, I'm too busy, I can't see retirement, and we got their ears, and that's where some of that 91 came from, was that under 30 group. So I think that's a pretty cool analysis of that. So new enrollments last year, 529 here. So again, good information there. Anything to add on that, Tom?
Yeah, that's just a huge increase in for those younger folks. You know, if they can just maintain, that's really going to help their likelihood of being prepared.
Investment allocations, because of the pro accounts in 2022, you had a pretty good percentage of people in more than 5 funds, and you still have a pretty good, but we increased the number of people with more diverse allocation from last year. And then compared to peer groups, you guys are ahead of the game now. Average asset class is 4.7 here, but the peer group's 4.3.
Could you explain what that means? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
Well, they look at your world, comparative world.
Oh, okay.
And they say, okay, the average group has 4.3 different asset classes, per employee, and you guys have 4.7. So you have a little bit better average, meaning your folks are more allocated than other groups like yours.
I see.
Total contribution by asset class, you can see 21, 22, 23 year to date, mid cap, large cap, balanced, and so on. You still have an increase of dollars flowing into the fixed account. And then you can see the equities asset allocation. These are the target dates, more than likely, and then large cap growth. So we have some good index funds and active management in your core classes, and you can see all of those are up. Online engagement, this is huge. Last year, you had total enrolled participants 64, 31 with an online account, 91, and now 69 this year. Retirement readiness, this is the whole purpose of why we're here. We have an increase of 10% on track for retirement, but we have an additional 43 people that at least know what their goals are. So, and we know what we should do, and it's hard to get from where we are to where we need to be, but now we have more people that are aware, and we actually increase the number of people that would be retirement ready. And it's in part all those one-on-ones that Tom and Stephanie have done, and then the tools that got consolidated into this new platform, and the new choices and our direction on allocation. And again, this was the 401 asset allocation. You can see that the majority of the money is still in the fixed account, more than your peers. We don't have a lot going into the asset allocation funds at this point, but we do have a little more in equities there.
I guess I see the percentages would, and I wouldn't hold it to you because you may or may not know the number, but I'm assuming that this number has to be $8, $9, $10 million in this account?
No, it's a little lower than that. It's around the 4 to 5.
Okay.
That's not the number.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
I think total we're between the two plans we're in that range, 7 to 9.
Okay.
Did you have something to
It
add?
grows at a pretty steady rate because it's the same, basically, as long as payroll stays consistent, it's the same amount of money going into this, basically the same investment. So it grows at a very steady rate, but we've seen more rapid growth at 457 because that's impacted by people choosing to put more and more.
So what happens to the dollars if we have an employee that stays 4 years and we paid 8%? Is there another line item here also that says that it's been forfeited, or does it go into everyone else's account?
Well, when they leave, they have that period, that window where they could come back. So they maintain the participant's status as an active participant until that time lapses, and then once it lapses, then that money goes into forfeiture, and the town, then will draw from it to make their future contributions. So it'll build up as people need that, they exit that window, and then it'll be drawn down from as the town makes their contributions.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else to add?
No, I remember Mayor Hall, last time we were here, about a year ago, he mentioned, well, we have to do something about 27% of folks being prepared for retirement, so I thought that's kind of where the rubber
I think I agree with you. In a short window, we've had more participants, and it looks like some of our older workforce is participating also in the 457, which is great also,
Yeah.
as well as the younger,
Police is-
right?
Yeah, the police, quite a few from the police department as well, so that's great to supplement, their.
Good news.
Yeah.
And I would add too, to go beyond that, some of the folks have taken advantage of, we do the one-on-ones, and we do some basic allocation and risk analysis and help them figure out funds. But anyone knows that in regards to financial planning, that's only this part of their whole picture. So when anyone, and we met with a couple people doing next level planning to take into account what their spouses are doing, old retirement plans, we've had some roll-ins, we've had some other things going on where we've actually sat down with folks and started a complementary financial plan at
Nice.
the next level. So if they want more than that 30-minute bite and all this, they have access on a complimentary basis, some additional planning tools that can help them figure out what's best for their entire financial situation.
Well, listen, that's great news. Earl, you have a complimentary program there for you?
I'm listening.
All right. Anyone from the board have any other questions or comments? Staff?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Andy.
I have a question on behalf of employee Mark Turnbull, DPW. So for the 401A, and I really didn't know, so I wanted to ask the experts. So if when I retire and I have a 401A, that money, when I retire, I can take as a lump sum, roll it over, but can I break it up in payments? So let's say I have $100,000 in my 401A when I retire. Can I say, okay, Nationwide, I want you to break that up in monthly payments for a period of time, almost like an annuity plan? Is that possible?
Yeah, there are folks that are doing that because when you reach a certain age, you have to start taking a required minimum amount determined by the IRS, and you have a number of folks that are still in the plan, retired, and they're getting that annual amount in monthly or quarterly installments, so you definitely can set up that, a monthly stream linked up to your bank account or a check that's mailed to your house.
And I think Chief, you know someone personally who does someone like that, correct? And for the plan review this month, could you explain to the board, to the committee, how that works and what that is?
Yeah, that's going to be a more in-depth review of the investments, a fiduciary investment review. We'll also cover some of this material, as well as in terms of how the plan is performed from a participation status. That'll be a nice in-depth thorough review of the investments and how the investments are performing, how we're monitoring and tracking, along with some other things as well that we'll go over with the directors.
I'm sorry, and then one thing that you mentioned to me not too long ago, there was a gentleman by the name of Rich Denardi on Nationwide that was helping with the 457 for the employees for many, many years. Did a great job, but there was a change in their model, right?
Correct.
And so could you explain that to us?
Absolutely. As we were coming in and there were some certain things going on, we're like, what's going on here? We found out that Nationwide stopped providing on-the-ground level support for plans under $10 million. So Rich Denardi, who used to come and sit down with your folks on a regular basis, is no longer available for plans under $10 million. And I happened to be at a conference this past weekend, and I happened to sit at a table with the three key executives that are layers above Rich and his team, and asking them about this entire thing. He said, yes, that's true. Towns, municipalities with less than $10 million, they don't get any ground level support. So we came in, kind of just, it was perfect timing really, because you were about to lose the support that you had. But even then, Rich was just education level, and wouldn't have been able to provide all this analysis and individual direction. But now that's across the board nationwide. And we're working with the other folks that are in charge of that to try to provide similar support for local municipalities that lost their person. Because there's a lot of plans under $10 million in the towns in the surrounding area. Any other thoughts or questions on that?
No, that's great. I think I know they've been really responsive when we have new hires. So HR will contact Weiner to say, okay, in this quarter we have so many full-time new hires, because you know, can we, or see if we can arrange a sit-down? They've been great about coming on site to meet with the employees that are interested, it's not forced, to talk about their future retirement. And they're just there, available anytime we need them. If there's an employee that has a question, concern, they feel like they're not getting the, you know, let's say their investment's going down, you know, we can direct them right to Tom or Lewis, and they're right there available to the employees to service, to help give them the service they need. And so they've been great so far.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The privilege of working with you guys, thank you.
It's all good. Everyone's happy.
One other thing,
Yeah.
Right?
I can't.
Takes a lot.
I'm wondering where we are. Can I?
Yeah, no, hey, Lewis and Tom,
Yes.
one last quick question. This, we're going through a lot of different things, stages here in the town of Elkton, multiple collective bargainings and so forth. Is 8% a good number? Is it a bad, high number, low number?
8% return?
No,
8% contribution.
The town.
Oh. Go ahead.
Well, I was just, you know, to give you some perspective from maybe the private sector, I mean, it's very common to see a match on a retirement plan of, say, 4 to 5%.
Mm-hmm.
The employee has to participate in order to get that, and then as a general sort of financial planning rule of thumb, about 10 to 15% generally is a good number that gets people prepared for retirement. So with your contribution of 8, I think it's very realistic to have folks maybe contribute 2 to 7% in their 457 to get to that ideal number. So I think it's a really.
So they could go, does anyone right now contribute additional in our plan?
So they would do it in the 457. They get the 8% of their income that goes into the 401, and then they could contribute their own money to make up the difference to get to the ideal sort of number.
Oh.
And so 15% is the most allowable at this point?
No, that's just more of a rule, you know, financial planning experts have said saving 10 to 15% of your income over the course of your career puts you in a position to have enough in that account to draw from to replace that income in retirement. So I think, I mean, 8% gives people a good head start.
Good.
How is that compared to the private sector? That's more than, because where I came from, we only gave, my employer only gave 3.5%, 4%.
Right. No, the answer to the question is yes, 8% is good. And in general, for for-profit employers around the area, it is higher than what they would get because most have a safe harbor plan, which is the max of 4% match. And, but they have to put into the plan to get that.
So there's no match here.
No, you're
There's
giving
no
them
match, you already
8%.
give it to them.
We're just giving them 8%.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Locally, Perryville does 5, because I was asking them about theirs.
Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you, guys.
And all the more reason that the 457 is so important and it's so successful now. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Steve, already, I'm getting a little echo here tonight. A little echo.
Oh,
Okay, we want to talk about utility billing. Huh? You don't want to talk about utility billing?
no, let's go. Let's go.
Was the utility billing about what's on the billing, or was we talking about the amount that we're billing? What was the,
I assume let's talk about the dollar amount.
the dollar amount?
I sent an email out yesterday afternoon. And I forwarded the ordinance that was originally scheduled to be presented on June 7th, but then that was removed. And that showed a increase of like 30% to the, I don't know how to let me get that in front of me, like 30% increase to the water rate and 45% increase to the sewer rate. And in that email yesterday, I put the basis for the need to raise the water and sewer rates. And I don't know if you want me to go over those again, or just if anybody recalls seeing that, or if they didn't see it. But we've not changed the rates since, actually, last time we changed the rates, they were both decreased. Okay, the water rates were decreased 11% in 2015. That was for the first 30,000 gallons of usage, which basically was all the residential users would generally use less than 30,000 gallons of water. So we lowered their rate 11% back in 2015, and we lowered the sewer rate for the same first 30,000 gallons back in June of 2017. Okay, so there has not been any, those have been the only adjustments to the water and sewer rate in that time period. And in that same time period, I pointed out in an email yesterday that artesian rates have gone up 13% during the same time period. And actually last fiscal year, that 250,000 gallon take or pay, we end up, for the whole fiscal year, we end up using about 50% more of that than the minimum take or pay, which was another over $200,000 more that cost the town. Infomark's basic compensation increased 50% during the same period. That's their basic cost to operate with the sewer distribution, the water distribution system and the sewer collection. That went up by 50% during the same time period. The last 4 fiscal years, we don't have 23s yet. The audit has not been completed for 23s. So for 2019, 2020, 21, and 22, collectively the water fund has lost that $2.4 million. The sewer fund has lost $2.5 million. So these are just pointing out that as we lowered the water and sewer rates like 7 years ago, these are the increased costs we have. And I did not put in the dollar amount for the increased salary and fringe benefits for the people that are affiliated to the water and sewer funds. The water and sewer funds are intended to be operated as a business, and clearly they are losing money.
How did we get here?
By
I feel-
lowering the rates all those years ago. And,
Well then, but I mean, it seems like we didn't have this, I don't recall having this discussion last year.
Well, it was set to be, we had an ordinance plan to be effective July 1 of this year, but that was.
I'd like to just jump, if I could kind of jump
Okay,
in
please.
too. I know that we had a rate study done prior to 2014, and then we had a rate study done actually fairly recent. What was it, a couple of years ago?
Well, that was, if you talk about just the billing audit, that was like a quickie thing that, like a low-level assurance that we were billing correctly per hour rates.
And I'd just like to say that I know that when I came on board in 2012, I guess it's been 2012 now, right? Yeah, 2012. There was a chart in place that every year there was going to be a percentage increase for the residents of the town of Elkton. And it's actually, looking back, it's probably a good plan, but in some cases it's a bad plan. And I think that when we decided to cut the rates by 11% in 2015, then we cut the rates again on our sewer rates in 2017. I think part of that was I was trying to get us to try to find some of that lost water, instead of, and that was the urgency. I thought instead of continually raising people's rates, let's find the water maybe that we're losing and that we could build. And I think we've kind of exhausted a lot of the avenues that we've tried. I mean, we've done the sound testing, we've looked physically searched for issues. We've replaced 95% of the water meters, trying to do everything that we could to find these water losses. And I think at one of the last meetings I had with Ryan, with KCI was, that number's not really a bad number. Sounds high to us.
You mean the water loss?
The water loss, it was, maybe it's not as bad as we think it was. It's bad in my view. But we've tried our best to identify where all the losses are, and I'm just not sure which way to go. I recognize that our water fund and sewer fund is going the wrong way, and we do have to make an adjustment.
I get it.
We're gonna have to make an adjustment, whether it's going up to additional rates that we talked about, getting it back up the 11% that we gave back to the residents before, or have to increase it even more. But when you look at Artesian's rates have increased 13%, and we're buying 50% more water than our agreement is with them, that's 44 million gallons in a fiscal year based on those calculations. So if you take 275,000 and let's say that we're pulling an additional 125,000 gallons a day from them, that's 44 million gallons of treated water that we're buying from Artesian at a higher rate than what we can purchase it. I know there was a lot of reasons why we did it. We've had the water coming down the Big Elk Creek. We've had problems over at the plant via Infomart. But the bottom line is, I'm not putting blame on any one thing, but when we're paying more for water than we're selling it for, that's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
It's a problem. And so we have to get to that number to where we're not losing, we got to stop the bleeding. And I think that that's something that Steve has put together some numbers for us to take a look at, and I think at the next meeting, I think that we're going to have to start implementing some water and sewer increases, as well as, and we haven't even got talking about the garbage collection, but when Infomart, our water and sewer bills, you have to be able to generate enough water and sewer dollars to be even able to pay our contractor that runs the plants. So Infomart is our operator, and once again, their increase to us, just like the waste trash collection, has gone up 50%, and we haven't done anything about that. And when I say we, it's us, and I'm one of the ones that say, no, let's hold off. But I think that we've held off long enough, and I'll have to be the first one to tell the residents of our town, we did our best to keep your costs down for as long as we could keep them down, and hoping that there would be other avenues that we could resource to help take care of these things. But the cost of operations, I mean, forget about the even buying the water for what's more than what we're charging. Just the cost of the operation of Infomart at 50%. I mean, those are real numbers. So they're real numbers.
Where are we at with the hookups for the water meters? I'm not sure who I'm asking, but where are we at with that? The meters are not all been installed in our residential homes, but yet we're talking about raising water that we haven't really. You said we haven't done everything. We have not completed our hookup for the residents. So, I mean, my thought, even though I know I hear the numbers, I'm still negative about voting on raising water rates when we can't even continue connecting up there all of our meters to find out whether we got as much as we could from the residents. So, I mean, we're again pushing one way when we shouldn't be until we find out what's the holdup right now? Where are we at?
I think we're well over 90% now. We're getting readings through the towers, so it's not fully integrated as far as being flowing directly into our billing system. But majority of the hookups are done, and I think we're experiencing what Northeast said, that when they got all these newer meters and the AMI advanced metering infrastructure system, they did not find a lot of water they did not find any water that wasn't being unbilled. It just doesn't equate collecting and billing and the information to bill. So when you talk about these residents that are still don't have, I think now we're down to just basic older places in town. I don't have the exact number, but again, most that have already been done. But the amount of gallons that they represent are not the amount of unbilled gallons that would result in material increase in revenue. We're just not, there's no costs that have gone down in the last 6 or 7 years. Absolutely everything has gone up.
We should have been steadily on top of this for the last several years, correct?
Well, I'll,
Making increases,
Well,
I'll defend staff, because every year they, at budget time, they have pounded me with increases, and I did not want to accept any increases.
yeah, I think this past year, how we had to utilize ARPA funds
Yeah.
was
Well,
like,
that's-
that was the straw, right there.
and that's not a sustainable funding source,
No.
obviously.
Absolutely not. And now we have the burden of having to make substantial changes to a person's pocket. I want to be able to justify it. Now, I feel like I can justify it in the increased costs of the operation of what Infomark is charging us. I can justify it in the increased cost of what our trash service is going to be charging us. You know, that's tangible, it's right there from your face, and we're all suffering in this economy right now. We're all feeling it, and that is justifiable. Other expenses that we haven't addressed yet, I think, are a different story. Earl's talking about, you know, water meters, water loss. We're talking, you know, artesian paying them more than we, I think, should be, is an issue that we have to address. Maybe producing some more of our own water in some manner. All these things need to be taken care of. What last meeting we had with Infomark, even Mark Turnbull was going to be doing some investigating on improving our plant operation because of the silt, things like that. I don't know where we're at on that. I've not heard back anything on any of that.
And that's why I scheduled them for the October.
So we're gonna regroup on that meeting and get some feedback on, it may or may not make a difference, but at this point, I'm clueless. I don't know if it makes a difference, you know? But it's important to know as we move forward. I don't wanna keep going in the hole and keep paying money out to Artesian that we might not have to be paying to them, for sure. That's a lot of money. If you compound it, you know, it's $1 million over the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Well, this last complete fiscal year alone is about, we purchased from them over 45 million gallons more than minimum take or pay.
Yes.
Which was about another, I said it was over $200,000.
Okay.
The last full
Yeah.
fiscal year.
So there's $1 million right there. Have we taken any money out of the water funds to pay for anything, other than ARPA, to pay for anything that we could have had a debt service on?
We've taken money out of the sewer fund to build a community center.
And that's part of the deficit that we're experiencing
No,
there, or no?
That's about $2.5 million more. That's about $2.5 million that the general fund owes to the sewer fund.
Is that figured in these numbers?
No,
It's not.
because it's just the receivables sitting on the sewer fund and the payables sitting
Okay.
in the general fund.
All right.
So I want to always look at the silver lining that we have for our residents, and the silver lining is, quite frankly, we've got one of the lowest water and sewer rates in the state of Maryland, and I think that we should all be very proud about that. You know, you look at our adjoining neighbors, I think we're at like $4 per thousand, I'm just giving round numbers, and when we're buying water from Artesian, we're paying
Like $4.60.
like $4.60, and then you look at our neighbors, the town of Northeast, I think that they're over $8 or $9 per 1,000 gallons, so.
That's why I thought those numbers were important to know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how far off are we? So,
We leave a lot of money on the table, but I also look at it, we do the best that we can for our residents, so it doesn't hurt them out of their pocket. And, but now I think they're gonna have to recognize that we've hung on as long as we could, and we're gonna have to make some increases.
Well, when the town starts suffering financially, you've just got to pass that on.
Right.
We gotta pass it on. I'm kinda like Earl, I don't wanna have to do it, but I think
Yeah.
that there's gonna have to be, Steve this is on the trash, I keep getting them confused a little bit here. But I think on the water and sewer, can you revisit that resolution to the board on the water and sewer rates?
Well, that was an ordinance, that was, I'm sorry, can I read?
You had some rates, can you make sure that the town, the elected body gets the rates that was projected, that we need to go with?
You're talking about the ordinance that was
Yes.
originally
The original
scheduled to
one?
be presented on in June.
Yeah, get that to us again for next meeting so
Okay.
that we can, because I think we're gonna have to take some action there.
I did include that in email yesterday, but I can resend it.
So I think
So that's gonna take care of the water and sewer.
it'll start moving the water and sewer, it will stop bleeding. I think it'll stop the bleeding.
Yeah,
Okay.
those dollar amounts we came from on that was basically to cover what is in the current year's budget to balance those two funds that is currently being balanced with the standard ARPA standard allowance. So we took that in order to remove that as a balancing revenue source. That was when we came up with a 30% increase to water, 45 to the sewer, would allow us not have to allow on ARPA funds to balance those two funds.
Okay, what about our tax rate?
Well, I guguess we should talk about the tax rate when we're talking about the trash if we could. I know for years that, I know when I first moved into Elkton in I think 1980, our trash collection was part of your real estate tax. And then somewhere along the line, we started, I think it was when Governor O'Malley implemented the Save the Bay tax, I think is when it kind of came in, and it gave municipalities an opportunity to maybe add on to that utility bill different things. And we were having small increases, and then we started adding the trash collection fee onto it. So instead of raising people's taxes anymore, we just did a separate fee for the trash collection. And so I think it's been a practice over the last 20 years to, anytime that there's been trash increases, it was just added to the utility bill or the water and sewer bill. And it's good and it's bad. It's bad if you're a homeowner because now you really can't take that trash and water bill, the trash off of your real estate taxes. So when you claim your taxes, if it was included in your taxes, you can take it as a deduction. The bad part of this is that the town of Elkton, as I said before, we're 50–60% rentals. And when you have that many rentals out there and you have that amount of landlords, and I'm not saying this negatively, but they have an opportunity to collect the trash and the water bill and so forth through a monthly or a quarterly process. So I'm mixed with that, I'm kind of mixed whether we try to incorporate it back into the tax rate in some manner. I don't think it could go into it today, because I think our total number on the trash was over $2 million, and that would be about probably close to a 20 cents tax increase to wipe it all out.
Well, actually, the advantage of being able to take it off your taxes, that's greatly been diminished by IRS changes to the standard allowance of it. People who can itemize now are much less than could before, so you don't take property taxes anymore.
So it's better just to keep it as a bill.
Well, yeah, the trouble is, but if you did it on the real property tax, you only get one bite of the apple, you have to do that once a year. Okay, and then for properties that came online during the course of the year that we would provide trash service for, they would be paying into it. So you couldn't collect that, and the additional beauty of having it on the utility bill is that unless the entire water, sewer, bag, and trash were paid, we have the leverage of shutting off the water, and that will motivate people to pay the entire bill.
Well, I understand the water and sewer, but, I think we were talking about just trash.
Well, you mentioned a little bit about possibly putting the trash portion, adding to the annual property tax bill, as opposed to how it currently is, which is being added to the water
Yeah.
utility bill, which is the
Yeah,
water.
well, I mean,
and sewer.
how could we possibly lose there? I'm
Well,
confused.
because we'd only get one opportunity to set the tax rate. So properties that came online afterward, we would never collect it from them, but we would be collecting the trash from them and paying for that service to the hauler, but we would never be getting that revenue.
Well, when you transfer a property though,
If it's a new property came online.
Oh,
it
new
would just build,
property,
and they
okay.
start getting the trash collection
So
service from the
Steve's
town,
right.
They wouldn't be paying for it.
So if you have 300 additional homes coming into Southfields,
They would never have been billed for trash.
the first probably 60 units per
I
year
see what
would
you're
be.
saying.
Yeah, I follow you.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense, really.
But, okay.
So when we went and we put our trash collection out on bid, I think we all recognized that it was gonna go up tremendously based upon what Waste Management was telling us. The good news is everyone's gonna be able to get a container now, 2 containers, and they have an opportunity to buy a third or a fourth container at such a ridiculously low rate. I think it's like $15 per container. But it's gonna take some adjustment for residents to understand it has to be in the container or they're not gonna pick it up. And so that'll take some training, but we'll get through there. But the price of trash, let's round it off at $90 a quarter. It's $30 per household for 2-day-a-week pickup plus bulk pickup. That's still very, very, a very good plan. If you're out in the rural areas of the county, we recognize that it's at least 150 to 200, 175 to have trash picked up. So you're still getting a fantastic bargain by living in the town of Elkton and having us pick your trash up. But once again, I would almost love to see this be a countywide picking up trash and at some point, but I'm okay. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know what else to say about it. Charlie, any comments or?
You know, it was a given, nationally, that each year where you live, pretty much taxes went up a year. A penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, people always complain about it, and they have a right to do so. And I guess we, here in the town of Elkton, and you're right, as you look back, we were actually extending ourselves to the people here, trying to do things from them, not raise taxes, not do a whole lot of things that, you want to do for your people. But the way society is down and what we look at with the trash and the water, and particularly the operating costs, it is caught up to the town, and you've got to do the next best thing to survive. And I tell people now that, there's going to be an increase in cost for a lot of things because that's just the way the world we live in. And, you got to operate if you don't want to do it, but you got to make it real.
I think you're spot on. I think it's something that we don't want to do. And, I look at it, and I'm still not wanting to raise taxes, I would say that. But I would say that when you look at our financial statement, we've depleted a lot of our reserves. But what we have done is our debt service is pretty null. I mean, I think we owe 7 or 8 million left on the wastewater treatment plan.
Yeah, I think 2028 will be done. We're paying about $1 million for a year. 2028 will be.
2028, that wastewater treatment plan is paid off, right?
Done, right?
But then the operating cost repairs are.
It will.
They'll continue, yeah.
But
And-
certainly,
and let's
but certainly
not-
the money's been managed well here for what comes in.
It's been very well, worked, especially if we
Yeah.
decrease.
I would say that all the police cars, other than last year's police cars, are completely funded.
Right,
Our backhoes, our vacuum trucks, we've done a pretty good job of,
And let's not forget what we also have the fire department to discuss with the tax increase
we do.
and how we're gonna
So
handle
that in and of itself shows that, you know,
Tax
we're
attack.
doing the right thing for the most part.
I'm
You
o-
gotta heat up and you gotta take some water.
We'll have to take some heat.
Yeah.
I know my friend doesn't want to.
Oh, I'm hearing, I'm hearing everything.
I know you are.
Much as I hate to,
I know. Well, listen, sometimes maybe you don't have to vote in favor of it.
I just, I hate to impose all the increases on the children and my children and all the children that come, beyond us. But anyway, some things have to be done, so.
I think Earl actually had a little note, and it was a very good note. You know, we've got a lot of growth that's coming into our town, and I'm so looking for this growth, but if you're losing 60 cents every 1,000 gallons on every new home that you got coming in on water and sewer, that's not a very good investment. So we have to get this adjusted today for this growth that we're gonna have, so that we'll have that $7 or $8 million additional.
Yeah, Earl, I
Once
was
that's
not
gone.
gonna say, we do have a history where we've lowered taxes, where we've lowered water rates and trash rates. In this economy right now, unfortunately, we're being hit hard.
Hit pretty hard.
But I don't think that you should feel as though.
Oh, no, I understand
Yeah.
where we're going with this.
That we're gonna, impose this on our,
Steve, do you have anything to add on any of this? I think we're,
Well, no one wants to pay any more taxes or more fees, but they certainly don't want to get any less services either.
that trash service would be
That
one.
balancing act you guys have.
I think so.
It better be.
Come up with a balance.
I think we'll be all right for next week.
And I've always said, you know, people, even though there's going to be an increase, don't mind paying for your trike service. There's no alternative. What do you do with trikes if you got it at home? You need somebody to come by and service you, and I think the town of Elkton's done a great job with that. But even though you've done things for people, there's an expectation on their part too, and you've got to go in your pocket to come up with something.
Yep.
They do it when gas prices go up.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling, but
It's not, but, the business of Elkton, we can't be putting out more money than we're receiving.
No.
It'll ruin us, it'll ruin everybody.
yeah.
And of course, nobody wants to raise them or pay more, but we're taxpayers too. We're raising them on ourselves.
Right.
True.
And we didn't cause this economy, that's for sure.
No, it can't continue like this. It's very unfortunate.
Very good, I think we're good on that. So next on the agenda, we got Miss Nia Aurora, I think she's online. Can you unmute?
I'm asking for something.
All right.
Yes, hi.
Hi, you're gonna give us a discussion on the World Culture Festival.
Yes, yes. Can I ask that I be allowed to share my screen?
Yes.
Start the video if possible. Yeah.
Are you ready to share your screen?
Screen sharing is still disabled.
Understood. Are you ready to do so now?
I don't think she heard you.
Okay, that's good. She should get the message now. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, sure. Yes. All right, so hi everyone. Good to be here. My name is Neha, and I'm representing the Art of Living Foundation. So the Art of Living is one of the largest non-profits in the world. We provide programs for stress management and mental health in about 180 countries. And the vision of the organization is to have a stress-free and a violence-free society. And we believe that it starts with an individual ability to manage their mind and emotions, Because when there is stress in the individual, it easily leads to stress in family and in our societies. And it can either lead to aggression or depression and the communication breakdown. So our programs, they are based on the power of breath, how to use our breath to calm our mind, bring focus, resilience, and heal trauma. And then when we let go of the stress, we are naturally happy. We are able to connect with everyone, and there is a spirit of celebration without any race or religion. You naturally want to hug the other person. It doesn't matter what religion the person is from. So we move from individual transformation to the community transformation, and then to the celebration of diversity. And with this spirit of celebration, with the vision of a one world family, we are organizing this big World Culture Festival at National Mall, where we are expecting about 500,000 people to come together. And there will be almost 17,000 artists performing at this event. And they are representing more than 60 countries. So I just want to show you a brief video. It's a 1-minute video about the festival. Just give me a second.
Every crisis is an opportunity to send a message to the world. We can celebrate our differences, to live life to its fullest, to unite people of different cultures, races, nationalities, and religions, to uplift human life. What makes World Culture Fest so exciting? Beyond the dancing, the singing, the connection, it begins with a vision. Inspired by Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, a spiritual teacher and voice of harmony, it's a vision of the world coming together as one family.
And it is time the wall should come down between cultures, between civilizations. We all must realize we are one world family.
And it's about the experience.
I'm so happy to meet you.
I want the world to share and have the joy what we are having.
Here, the most peaceful place in the world.
Look at New Delhi tonight. 3.5 million people. And no violence.
It's inspiration. It's diversity on an Olympic scale. It's inclusivity. And it's pure celebration. Now, the World Culture Festival is premiered in the United States. This is your opportunity to be part of history. And September 29, 2023, the World Culture Fest is premiered at the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
And you want us to be there.
Invite everyone to be a part of this amazing festival for diversity, coming from the spirit of one world family. We'll be sharing a separate invite for the mayor, and we have like a lot of heads of states, president, prime ministers from different parts of the world. They are coming to attend the festival, and a lot of congressmen and senators. They are also part of the reception committee. So the reception committee is chaired by Ban Ki-moon, 8th General Secretary of United Nations. And the video was about the past World Culture Festivals that happened. So it's coming for the first time in the United States. So you all are invited. And that is, just want to share about that. And the other thing is, as the foundation, the Art of Living Foundation, we provide a lot of mental health programs that have benefited millions of people around the world. I'm one of them. So just want to see if there is a way that, we can integrate these programs into the city, into our community. So if you have any ideas on how we can work together on this. So just these two things.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments?
For what?
For the presentation?
This program she wants us to consider.
Well, what do you have any expectation of us, or are you just exposing us to this fair?
Geez, can you unmute her?
Yes, so there is no expectations, it's just an open invitation for everyone to come together. It's happening right on the National Mall, and anything that happens on that mall, the Washington DC, its vibration gets all around the world. So it's a good cause for everyone to be together and represent our counties, our cities over there, that we stand for peace. That's the only thing. No expectations as such. And if you would like to share this word with your constituents, I would be happy to provide an email that you can share with everyone, so that people just come together. So that's the only thing.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all we had on the agenda, but I think there's a couple things that I wanted to touch base on real quickly. We had, Lou, there was a question or a recommendation you had made about Singerly Fire Company getting their financials. Have you sent over an email or a letter?
We're waiting for pricing for that from Clifton Allen. Once we get a price for a financial review, I'll contact the president of the fire company and ask them if they'll release their records to our auditing firm for review.
So Sam, what we're taking this very seriously. We're moving forward with this process, but there was a couple things, and it was advised to us that we should probably sit down and have a look at the financial records as we do the data to move forward. So I don't think
we presented our financials in this meeting.
Then that's perfect then. Yeah.
And we are audited every year, so that's not a problem to provide that information.
That'd be great. And then we'll just go through the process. You had asked a question of me yesterday about moving forward with the charter change, and the comment that I have is after we receive this for recommendation, then we can move forward on that. And as I told you, it looks like it's a pretty simple process, but now after I'm listening to some of the board members about charter changes, it may be, we've got to make a decision whether we're doing charter changes or on referendums, or we're doing charter changes with the pencil.
Well, I know that the board voted to reduce our funding from 3 mills to 1 mill without a referendum. And it may be using the charter as a minimum requirement for the town. It may be that rather than even going down the charter change route, maybe it should just be a bill of services, just like trash and anything else.
And it could well be. And I just want, I was going to clarify. I'm going to clarify that.
Yeah, there's some clarity here that.
Yeah, so I think that you saw a charter change, which was probably done in, what year was it? 2004, 2005? But it was the state of Maryland it was a state of Maryland clarification, but you guys can answer it better than I do.
Well, the assessments in the state of Maryland says that 40% of the, fair market value of the property at the time, then it went up to 100% assessment to present a truer picture of the assessment property. Assessment, of course, the contributions went down. They still amounted to the same amount for assessment.
So it says 3 cents on 40%, it's like 1.2% on 100%. Mathematically, it came out to the same amount, but it was this illusion or a misconception that it was a reduction, but it actually wasn't.
And I think at that time, we did have members of the fire company that was sitting up here that actually voted for that change, but it was a clerical change. But it does come off, if you don't know the history, that certainly looks like there was a percentage cut in the funding.
But mechanically, it was still done without referendum.
It was. It was.
It was a mandate, wasn't it?
I think that was a mandate by the state. They went
They're
from,
by the state of Maryland.
Yeah, that's a whole different,
The assessments are 100% out.
if the state of Maryland stepped in.
it
and
went
said,
from
"You'll
a
have
40%
to
assessment to a 100% assessment.
We're just saying it's not required to have a referendum.
It isn't required. It isn't required. All right, so the last thing that we have, I want to speak with council in regards to the acquisition of real property for public purpose and matters directly related hereunto, and will only be 5-minute stops. So everyone can stay except the public, but it'll only be a real quick thing that I know that John wants to address to us. It's some language, I don't think it's a, can I bring it up to the town? Why do I, can I go ahead and say it without? Or how do you really feel?
Need a closed meeting? Everybody's asking.
Yeah, are you gonna get a place of counsel? I don't know what you're gonna ask me, but if you ask me stuff, then I'll be giving you a place of counsel, but I can't.
Okay, very good. I just want to let everyone know it's about the Holly Hall property, so just to clarify that, I can say that. Okay.
Can I ask the chief something before we adjourn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, where are we on the out-of-state license for residents?
So Maryland Motor Vehicle usually gave us the warning papers that we would put on everyone's car that had an out-of-state tag. And so it took us a little bit of time to research, but they're not doing that anymore. And we had to go through warehouse and everything, and they don't have those. So we had to create our own. And we did finally do that and have them printed up. And so we're really ready to go on that. I was waiting for this really busy season to get behind us.
Okay.
But probably by the end of the month, we're gonna start putting those out in some of the neighborhoods. And we're, I think I'm gonna task Anthony Devine with doing that as part of our Aspen community engagement, to get him out into some of these communities. We're gonna start small with particular communities and then.
Do you just put it on the car? Is that how it works?
We do put it on, and it basically educates them about how long they have to get their tag registered in the state of Maryland, and then the exceptions that the state of Maryland allows.
Okay.
And then if they want a non-resident permit, they can do that, it tells them how to do it, and then hopefully they'll get that back to us so we know. But then it also requires us to basically go out and make sure that that vehicle is still there for that time, and that it wasn't just somebody visiting.
I was
one
gonna
night or
ask you, how do you
Well,
determine, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, and so, and that'll just be something through the courts, I don't know that they have an actual number of days per night that it has to be there, but we just have to show consistency that it's
So,
there over
we'll
that
have-
time frame.
He'll have to log his
Yeah,
activity.
he'll have to actually, right, so that's what makes it easier when I have one person that does it.
Gotcha. Will
Instead
you-
of everybody out there doing it, so
Will you
we're
let us-
getting ready to move forward on that.
Okay, will you let us know when you do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But Gene, as you continue to ask that question, that's good, but we also need to be mindful as a sitting board here that we have an ordinance that states that people who own property aren't supposed to have cars in their yards without tags as well. So, you know, it's heavy. Which direction do we go? But that's just a thought.
You mean like abandoned cars or?
Well, you're not even like Rob, not supposed to have a car in his yard without tags. That needs to go. But then Johnny down the street might say, well, he's got a car on the street, so which direction are
But
we
isn't
going?
that a chip thing? Is that a different?
Yeah, that's the.
We know that's a different thing, but I'm saying, which direction are we gonna be going if we have a violation to the left and a violation to the right? Where do we put our focus? Where do we put our movement? What do we want erased?
I understand, I appreciate that. We did put this out actually months ago on our Facebook page that we were gonna do this, but that was the delay, just so you know. We really kind of thought, we're gonna have a whole program for this, and we just partnered with them. Apparently, they're not even involved in it anymore, for whatever reason. It's still on the books though that you have to have your vehicle registered in the state of Maryland. It still makes sense to me. It's still a law. So we're moving forward with it. We just have to take the long way around. We did put it out, we'll put it out again that we're gonna start this. And we've actually had on both sides, you know, obviously with everything we do, there are people on both sides of this. Like we don't, it's just a money thing. It's not just a money thing, right? Like we need to know who's living what roads, who's driving what vehicles in our neighborhood and to make sure that a lot of the problems that we have are with out-of-state tags, people coming over here, not registering in our neighborhood or here. I mean, there's a lot going on with that. So we will start probably in some of our high crime areas. That's my intent. It's just another way to get out there and be seen and let them know we're there. But we will educate. But I'm fully aware that there's some people that are not for this, and I think it's no big deal.
I'm for it. So what is the time frame on a vehicle? For instance, guy around the street been there for how long is it that you would take initiate service to recorrect that?
So it used to be, until we get to it?
No,
Or how long do they have to do it? It used to be 30 days.
Okay,
I
that's
think
what
now
I'm
it's-
asking.
I think now it's 60.
Okay.
It'll be on that piece of paper too, though, but.
I'm fine with that. I wasn't
You know, these University of Delaware students with mom's car.
Hey, Rob.
At least they'll have an answer.
There are certain things, like I said, if they're entitled to a non-resident permit, armed forces, or something like that, if they're entitled to a non-resident permit, they just need to mark it.
That's right. We need to,
It's my mom's car.
I like it. Operation
If my
Clean
mom's
Sweep.
car is
is,
not a legit.
What you think?
I
Look at my son on that. University of Delaware.
Okay, do we have a motion to have a closed meeting to consider acquisition of real estate and have advice of counsel?
Some.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And we will
Sam.
not
Thank you for
reconvene.
reaching out.